President Biden on Tuesday harshly criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's handling of the war against Hamas in Gaza, suggesting that Israel's closest ally and biggest donor has grown sour with the campaign that has killed thousands of Palestinians and caused a humanitarian disaster in Gaza. Biden told his supporters that the indiscriminate things that are happening were starting to cost Israel's support around the world. The comments, made at a fundraiser in Washington, stood out as the most direct language the president has used to speak about his Israeli counterpart. Biden and Netanyahu, who have known each other for decades, have expressed increasingly divergent views on the conflict in recent days. The Biden administration has increasingly expressed concern about the human toll of the war, which has killed at least 18,412 people in just over 2 months. According to Gaza's Ministry of Health, the rising number of civilian casualties has angered administration officials, who are pushing for a new humanitarian pause to allow the release of more Israeli hostages and deliver more aid to the besieged area. Meanwhile, Netanyahu rejected many U.S. proposals. Earlier Tuesday, he said there were disagreements over the day after Hamas, but he hoped that could be overcome. Under pressure from Israel's right wing, Netanyahu has opposed U.S. calls to allow the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority to take control of Gaza after the war. On Monday, Netanyahu told lawmakers that Gaza would remain under Israeli military control and that its civilian government would be rehabilitated under the leadership of the Gulf countries. "We will not bow to international pressure." The current conflict erupted on October 7, when Hamas and allied fighters poured in from Gaza, killing more than 1,200 people in Israel and taking another 240 back to the area as hostages. The United States is increasingly alone in supporting this campaign. The UN General Assembly, which met in emergency session on Tuesday, voted overwhelmingly in favor of a ceasefire request for the second time. The measure had the support of 153 non-member states. That number was 32 more than support for a similar measure in October. The United States joined Israel and 8 others in opposing it on Tuesday. 23 members abstained. The United States was one of 10 countries that voted against the resolution. The session was requested by Egypt and Mauritania after the United States vetoed last week's ceasefire resolution supported by a majority of the Security Council. Israel said the ceasefire would allow Hamas to regroup and launch more deadly attacks against Israelis. But as Israel Defense Forces continues to wage war, world leaders and aid workers are issuing increasingly dire warnings about plight of civilians in region and scarcity of aid. Israeli officials said Tuesday they had opened a second station at Kerem Shalom border crossing in the southeastern corner of area to screen aid.